Welcome everybody in the name of IRISCC to this sixth session concerning the research infrastructures related with IRISCC. As you know, IRISCC aims for the integration of climate change related services coming from 14 different European leading research infrastructures. And today we do have the pleasure to have among us Joseph Timkowski from AnaEE. AnaEE is a research infrastructure that stands from analysis and experimentation on ecosystems. And we also have the pleasure of having Hannah Clark from IAGOS, an infrastructure that stands for in-service aircraft for a global observing system. As in previous sessions, we are going to be recording this session so that we are going to put it later on in our YouTube channel, but then we will stop the recording for the questions. As in previous sessions as well, we have approached the speakers with 3 questions. We have asked them if they could explain us in an easy way what their research infrastructure is about and how this research infrastructure fits in the context of IRISCC, and if they could give us some climate change risks related cases in relation to their research infrastructure data or different services. So this is what I wanted to say. I will not take more time from our speakers. I will stop sharing my screen and I'm going to give the floor to Joseph. Joseph, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Bernard. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks very much, Bernard, for the invitation. And yeah, it's my pleasure to speak today on behalf of AnaEE, Eric. And yeah, so I'll provide hopefully a brief and nice overview about the AnaEE activities and what it stands for. Yeah, as Bernard said, my name is Joseph Timkowski. I'm a science project manager at AnaEE, Eric. I've been working at AnaEE for about 2 years. And yeah, happy to be here. So I'll start with a brief outline of the talk. So first, provide an introduction, and I'll talk about the scope of research and operations of AnaEE, and I'll talk more about the a few facilities I'd like to highlight. Then I'll mention a few things about training, facility training. I'll explain a little bit more what it is, and then I'll end with how to use AnaEE services and mention some ongoing projects we have. Okay, so yeah, AnaEE, Eric, there are basically 7 country members located obviously in Europe. So it's in France, in Finland, in Denmark, in Czech Republic, in Italy, in Bulgaria, and potentially in Belgium. And it brings together, analysis and experimentation on different ecosystems across Europe. And as you can see, it's a distributed infrastructure, and the core is its distributed experimental facilities, which are located in the different parts of Europe, so that different types of climate can be studied. In this slide, I'll talk a bit about the scope of research and operations. It's quite an extensive slide, so I'll go step by step through every point on the slide. So in terms of the scientific issues which we aim to address with AnaEE, there are quite a few. And so one is ability to simultaneously study the multiple pressures on global change on ecosystems, tools to monitor multiple interacting ecosystem processes, tools to study changes at different levels of biological organization, diverse ecosystem types to study, multiple compartments of continental ecosystems, And well, few other tools you can, few other issues you can see here on the screen. And well, as you can see, it's all very much related to climate change issues. So that, you know, it fits really nicely in the context of IRISCC, of course. And in terms of the methodological and technological issues we aim to address, it's that we combine distributed and complementary services into a single coordinated offer. So that is to say that all the services can be accessed in through a centralized point, and in our case, it's an ISIA catalog, and I'll talk about the ISIA a little bit at the end of my talk. And it basically serves as a common access portal with shared rules. And in terms of the socio-economic issues we aim to address, so it's related to agricultural and forestry production, natural resources and risk management. So we, as AnaEE IAGOS, we participate in several infra-serve projects. So one of them being basically it's one of these projects is really focused on the agroecological transition. And in terms of other socioeconomic issues, it's a possibility to experiment with processes, test methods, etc. And also one of the important points which kind of deserves more and more attention from within AnaEE is collaboration with private sector. It's something what it's still, let's say, starting, but it's definitely which deserves more and more attention. And we are basically, for ourselves, we're also figuring out ways to how to attract more users from private sector, being it from industry or from large industrial companies, or being it from SMEs, small and medium enterprises. Okay. So in terms of the services, we offer the services to understand the dynamics and sensitivity of ecosystems to global change. It's about manipulation of ecosystems to understand and characterize their dynamic properties in terms of adaptation, to the future changes in climate. And so the idea is that we provide the services that help to address these issues. And as I already briefly mentioned before, and you can also see on this map that all the different facilities which from AnaEE, they are located across different climatic zones in Europe. So that allows to perform studies across the different climatic zones and compare and contrast, so to speak. And and also we provide different types of facilities and easy access to them with a wide range of ecosystems. And based on the available services, we can also predict how ecosystems will respond in the future by simulating future climate conditions, and including identifying tipping points and understanding how ecosystems can adapt. Okay. So if we talk about different, let's say, offer, what we can provide to different, to academic users or to other members. So for academic users, it's a full catalog of facilities and services. So that's an easy catalog I mentioned before. It's a single entry point to access infrastructures, and that can be done basically in two ways, either through a large infraserve project or directly through large infrastructure project like IRISCC, or directly through AnaEE. And we provide open access to data and metadata acquired by AnaEE. And we can also provide training for scientists and early career researchers. For AnaEE members, it's a coordination of procedures, quality standards, and regulation across facilities to make sure that there is some level of standardization across facilities. It's not an easy topic because it's about it's mainly AnaEE is mainly about the experimentation, and the experimentation, on ecosystems can be done in quite many ways. So it's quite a challenge to standardize the experiments, but my colleagues are working on that to make sure that the data that are obtained across from different research facilities, they can be to a certain degree compared. Support to develop, test, and implement new instrumentation processes and methods. It's about for AnaEE members for scientific networking and road mapping, coordination and support of common projects such as IRISCC from within AnaEE, and training of staff. For private partners and non-governmental organizations, it's about central access point for scientific users. It's test of new products, new technologies, etc. Support for innovation activities and training for technical users. For policymakers and society, it's about impact assessment. It's expert public policy advice on improved management and methodologies for sustainable agriculture and ecosystem management. And it's coordination and support of facility national node activities in education and outreach, and about European-wide awareness building. Okay. Yeah, so we've talked now. So it was an introduction, and we've talked about the scope of research and operations. And now I'll go and talk a little bit more about the specific facilities from AnaEE, and describe first high level what type of facilities we have, and then provide an example of 3 facilities. So 3 type of facilities we have. It's experimental facilities, and there are 2 subtypes of them: open air facilities, so basically anything that can be studied in the field, so to speak, and enclosed facilities. And enclosed meaning that obviously a good example would be something that can be studied, uh, inside, so to speak, with a much better degree of control on the experiments. And we have also analytical facilities and modeling facilities. So in terms of open air facilities, here you can see an example of 3 different sites in Italy, France, and in Denmark. And they allow for long-term experiments and several drivers and manipulations. And because they are located in as already mentioned, they are located in very different ecosystems. So this can be studied. Operations, so it can be either standalone experimental facilities with physical access or remote access, or network of sites for coordinated in situ experiments. In terms of enclosed facilities, so it's a good example is basically about ecotrons. And here you can see an example of 2 ecotrons from Czech globe and from University Telecatron from University of Liège. It's the strong part about ecotrons is that it's highly controlled conditions, and where multiple parameters can be controlled and monitored, such as exposure to high CO2 concentrations, changes in solar irradiance, and rainfall. And it provides for short to medium term exposure, and whole pieces of ecosystems can be studied in such controlled chambers. And these controlled chambers, as you can see on the pictures, so for example, the one on the picture above, you can see it's located outside, so natural light can enter the chamber. And the one which is located on the picture below, so here the plants are located inside, so all the light can be controlled directly, and there is no penetration from outside in terms of light. So there is some variation in there. Okay, so now I'll dive a little bit deeper in and provide talk a little bit more specifically about three ecosystems. Three facilities from AnaEE. So I'll dive a little bit deeper in the Terra facility I mentioned already before. So this is an ecotron facility, and it enables researchers to conduct controlled ecosystem experiments. I developed so this slide. So here you can see also some basic facts about this facility, that it's based in in Belgium. It's a part of University of Liège. The following parameters can be controlled, like air and soil temperature, humidity, precipitation, CO2 and ozone concentrations, etc. There are a number of parameters that can be monitored. Some unique points about this facility is that, as I mentioned already before, that artificial lighting can be controlled all year long. So that's it provides a lot of control over the experiments. Possibility for complementary experiments to join. So often they perform long-term experiments at this facility, but at the same time they are open to additional experiments that can join the running experiments, and it can provide a great benefit, especially when you want to conduct interdisciplinary studies. So that's a strong point about this facility. And they also are capable of installing up to 1.5 meter deep lysimeters to allow root development as in natural conditions. Here I also mentioned a couple of success cases they had so far. So maybe I'll describe one of them. The second one with C2 lens. So they enabled researchers to validate novel bio-based fertilizers and under future climate scenarios, and that helped to provide actionable insights on crop performance and environmental impacts within a controlled experiment. And here I also mentioned the contact email of the professor who's responsible for this facility, in case you are interested to get in touch. Okay, so that was the first one. So the second one is a very different one. So it's focused more on the aqua studies, and it's a facility. It's a Silkeborg Lake Mesocosm facility based in Denmark, and it's basically a unique. Here you can see that it's a set of tanks with fresh water, which allow for climate change experiments. And a unique point about this facility is that they have very long-term running experience. So they started some experience even back in 2003. So it's basically 23 years running experiments. So that's something very unique about this facility. And some things to mention here is that, you can change the temperature and adjust the temperature, adjust nutrient levels. They perform high frequency measurements of dissolved oxygen, chlorophyll, and a few other things. And yeah, so it's suited for studies of nutrient and climate interactions on lake ecology and biochemistry. Sorry. Yeah, and some examples of current studies which are performed at this facility. Sorry. An investigation into how climate change and different nutrient loading interact to shape microbial communities and their processes of dissolved organic matter composition. How also climate change will alter direct organic matter composition in freshwaters with potential cascading impacts, altering greenhouse, yes, with potential cascading impacts altering greenhouse gas dynamics. So in other words, these studies allow to understand basically the absorption potential of freshwater systems to greenhouse gases. Yeah, I think that's those are the main things I wanted to mention about the Silkeborg facility. And if we go next, so last example I wanted to indicate is a Norpit facility based in Finland. It's a part of a large Finnish institute called Luke. So they have a few facilities which are part of IRISCC, and yeah, here's one of them. So, so this facility is about sustainable agriculture on boreal cultivated peatland and under changing climate. They basically, yeah, I'll read a few things from, or I'll mention a few things from the slide. So it's located at very high up north, so at 64.7 degrees northern latitude. So a unique point about this facility is that they allow for, for climate studies in a very northern climate, and it's quite interesting. It can be interesting for many applications. Yeah, the effect of peat depths can be monitored, and because they have, let's say, plots with a varied depth of peat. And maybe a little bit high level about this facility. So a key approach to mitigate, greenhouse gas emissions from peatlands is is raising the water table level. And so by manipulating this water level, basically, they can study how different kind of absorption capacity of peatlands towards greenhouse gases, and that's that's a unique, I would say, rather unique capability of this facility. Yes, and yeah, I think so. And yeah, interesting point that they have a large water storage reservoir that allows for this manipulation in terms of this water level depth. So I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, so those were three examples of of the facilities, and now I can talk a little bit about the analytical facilities that are part of AnaEE. So there is also a broad variety of analytical facilities. Some of them are focused on molecular biology and genetics. One of them is even an airborne lab. Another one is focused on biogenic volatile organic compounds measurements and plant physiology, soil and microbiology, and a few other things. So it's quite a broad range of facilities which provide for analytical studies. And modeling, so that's something which is my colleague from maybe I didn't mention it upfront. So we have basically 4 centers within AnaEE, and modeling center is based in Rome, in Italy, and my colleague there is responsible for modeling part, and it's getting, let's say, more and more embedded into AnaEE activities. And so the idea is that with a modeling approach, one can help to, optimize the experimental work, of course. And the idea is that, once you want to test a certain hypothesis, so that you set up an experiment, but then you can, after an experiment is done, you can, run the outcomes through model and understand what's actually happening, and then create new hypotheses, and then repeat basically the loop. But then of course, through modeling, you can optimize your experiments, and basically there would be one could conduct fewer experiments to achieve the same result as in the past. Okay. Yeah, so we've talked now about the different facilities and different facilities which are provided by AnaEE. One thing I wanted to briefly mention is about Fusierto training. That's something we developed recently within AnaEE, and I'll mention a few things about that. Just as a motivation for this, from a recent report on the transnational access study, they came up with a number, with a shocking number in my view, that in Horizon 2020 project, TNA type of projects, 51% of installations remained unused. So meaning that basically more than half of installations remain unused. I, to be honest, was quite shocked when I came across this number. And so that also was one of the kind of for me one of the big motivation points to start thinking about it and to see what can be done about that. And we decided to develop this training to help address this issue and see how we can help increase the installation usage. So in other words, how to help attract users to various facilities from AnaEE, but also broader from within infrastructure projects we are part of, but also can be other projects as well. And so we came up with this acronym FUSERTA, which stands for Find User for TA Access. And the approach, I'll just mention a few few things here. So it's a proactive, persistent, and supportive approach. So the idea is that the potential user search process comes from the facility directly, and that it's there is a lot of kind of responsibility on the facility shoulders to attract users, and they are also the ones obviously who know the best what type of research experiments they are doing and what type of users fit what they're offering. And this training is for facility managers, for access managers, and potentially for access officers. And so far, just as a background, already 3 large infrastructure projects have been involved. So it kind of all started with Microbes for Climate. Then we follow up with Aquasurf and also with Agrosurf, where we've done also a number of one-on-one trainings to individual facilities. And to mention what the approach is about, so the idea is, of course, that with this training, we help increase a number of user applications to individual facilities, and we split the potential or applicants in 3 kind of blocks. So block 1 is we focus on applicants who already have experience with applying for TNA, so they know what TNA is and how to apply for it. Then we focus on the block 2, which are applicants who in the past considered applying for TNA, but they did not apply yet. And block 3, which is most, let's say, time and labor consuming, it's focused on the applicants who have not yet even considered applying for TNA. And underneath we create like a whole, here you can see it kind of blurred, but there is a whole like flow chart where we go through a number of steps to help guide, facility managers. So a very structured process so that they can attract users in the most efficient way. And then the idea is that it results in more more user applications and hopefully higher proposal quality and overall increased scientific excellence. Okay. Yeah, so that was briefly about the FUSERTA training. Now, last few things I want to mention. So how to use AnaEE services. So I already mentioned this ISIA catalog. So you might have come across, and it's also obviously used within IRISCC as a catalog of as a platform for catalog of services, and it's also used across in a number of other projects, and it provides a way to access in a centralized manner all the services which are offered through a project. And it's also, let's say, can be used for listing not only transnational access but also virtual access services. Okay. And well, basically, last few things that just to mention a few things. So we like to collaborate, and we are happy to collaborate with our partner infrastructures. And so currently, we are involved in a number of projects, and of course, we are very happy to be part of the IRISCC project. Okay, well, thanks very much. That was all from my side. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Joseph. That was a very comprehensive introduction to your research infrastructure, I think. I pretty much understood everything that you were saying, and it was very interesting also to know about this FUSERTA training. I see there is one question for you in the chat, but as I said earlier, we're going to keep the questions till the end, and you can answer if you want in the meantime, but we'll keep it in the end. And we are going to move now to IAGOS with Hannah. So Hannah, whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I hope you can all hear me.
We can
And
hear you.
I'm just set up my screen. Okay, that should be coming up.
Yes, but it's
Is that
not
my
in,
whole screen that you can see,
it's the
or is that just my
PPT as such,
presentation?
but it's not in presentation mode. But we can
Okay,
see
let's okay. So
and now
you can
it's
see that now,
perfect.
can you, in presentation mode?
Very well.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot for the invitation to do this webinar. So I'm from the IAGOS Research Infrastructure, which is actually an AISBL rather than an ERIC. And so these are our member institutes listed here along the bottom. So I shall talk about what IAGOS is and then our implication in the IRISCC project. So first of all, what is IAGOS? So IAGOS is a European research infrastructure for monitoring climate and air quality using commercial aircraft. Um, so as you can see from this figure, aircraft are integral in the global observing system, which is a coordinated effort, as I'm sure you're all aware, for better understanding of the environment and of the human impact on the environment and a better prediction of weather and climate. So each of the uh, aircraft are just one of a range of different platforms which occupy different spaces within this, and they all have a different role and a different contribution to the global observing system according to their strengths and weaknesses. So in Europe, each of these spaces is occupied by a research infrastructure, as the figure illustrates. And yeah, the research infrastructure allows us to have stable long-term funding, which is essential if you want to have climate monitoring. And we can also maintain standards over time, and we are using FAIR principles. So IAGOS is quite unique in the landscape of research infrastructures. So we provide in situ vertical profiles in the upper troposphere and throughout the troposphere. We have largely global coverage, particularly focused on Europe, but also, well, as I said, global. And we also have a 30-year time series. So we measure 8 out of 10 of the essential climate variables for atmospheric composition from the ground up to 12 kilometers. I should say that we have very strong connections with particularly ACTRIS and ICOS, and this complementarity is seen in many of the joint projects that we're involved with. We also contribute to many advisory groups and international activities. So how does IAGOS work? So we have two different approaches. The first approach is the permanent installation of instruments on Airbus A330 and A340 aircraft. So these instruments are in continuous operation all year, all the time, contributing about 500 flights per aircraft per year. And this gives us a global scale monitoring of various species such as ozone, carbon monoxide, water vapor, clouds, and temperature. And then we have optional packages for NOx, greenhouse gases, and aerosols. We have a second approach, which is in construction, as you can see here. And this is what will be the new IAGOS Caribbean Flying Laboratory. And this is a cargo container, which has 19 instruments, and this is in preparation at the moment. But this aircraft won't fly quite so frequently as the others, but it will give a more broader and complex set of observations for atmospheric processes. So this is our current fleet. We have 10 aircraft. We have Lufthansa, Air France, Iberia, and Discover Airlines operating in Europe, or from Europe, I should say. China Airlines and Cathay Pacific operating in the Asia Pacific region, and then Hawaiian Airlines and Air Canada for North America. So together, all of these airlines create this sort of quasi-global map of different routes with about 75,000 flights in our database. And they visit during landing and takeoff, obviously various airports, and this gives us about 15% of our data as profiles, and the rest at cruise altitude. So we should perhaps note at this point that we don't have control over where the aircraft fly. These are commercial aircraft, they carry passengers, so they go where the people want to go, not necessarily where the science is. So it's a kind of monitoring process. And because of this, obviously, we don't have transnational access. You can't get on board and go, hey, I want to go here. So our research infrastructure is virtual access research infrastructure. So these are different topics of IAGOS research and data use. So we have a lot of studies on trends, particularly with our 30-year time series, processes in the upper troposphere and lower stratosphere, including clouds and aerosols, which is here, climate and dynamics modeling, composition and chemistry, and a significant part now of our research or our data use is on aviation impacts. So that implies a degree of connection with commercial users, and I guess small medium enterprises. So yeah, we address these different sustainable development goals, particularly climate action, but also good health and well-being through our air pollution measurements, industry and infrastructure through particularly aviation impacts, sustainable cities and communities because we have a large number of airports, which are obviously in big cities, and then quality education because we are essentially an academic. Most people work also for academic institutes. So this is our research infrastructure service chain. So basically the concept was that we measure ozone and water vapor. We can contextualize this in the atmosphere by measuring other species such as carbon monoxide, nitrous oxides, greenhouse gases, aerosols, clouds, temperature, and winds. So that allows us to set these ozone and water vapor measurements into a broad atmospheric context. We provide added value products, which enhances the data. So these might be things like potential vorticity, geopotential height, surface pressure, various meteorological parameters. These are delivered within the database or the data center, I should say. So this includes the download services, visualization, source receptor links, climatologies, things like that. And we also provide interpretative services such as daily comparison with the Copernicus atmospheric monitoring service models. And then I suppose what's more relevant to IRISCC is this stage of integrated services. So we have integrated products and end user applications, and this is more for sector-driven services. So these are the ways you can track. I put track tropospheric ozone and precursors essentially, but this is how you can access any of our data from IAGOS. So the latest landing and takeoff profiles are compared with Copernicus atmospheric monitoring service models. I've put the QR code there, so that's within the CAMS project. Then we have time series analysis, so we can combine our data more effectively with surface stations, including co-location and visualization. So that was really developed within the ATMO Access project. So this includes a footprint analysis tool, models for interpretation of measurement data, and also provenance of air masses linked to emissions databases. And then within IRISCC, we're looking at heat and wildfire risks and the impacts of air quality on a changing climate. And this links in with some of the services that were developed within ATMO Access, as we'll see. And then for the European Open Science Cloud, we have developed this kind of dashboard where you can access the latest measurements of water vapor or carbon monoxide or ozone with a time series as well. So this is the tool for the anomaly analysis as developed through IRISCC. So we can see that you can choose your variable. I don't know if the mouse actually works on the screen, whether you see that or not. But anyway, you can choose the variable and the vertical layer, and you can select your airport region, and then you get a time series and you get this anomaly calculation. And then in the vertical profile, you can get an anomaly, negative or positive, red or blue, for different variables measured by IAGOS. So basically using this anomaly tool, I'm going to show a few case studies. The first is anomalies of ozone during heat waves, and then anomalies of ozone during severe weather events. We'll have a look at some anomalies of carbon monoxide during wildfires and different sort of planetary scales, local fires or local or long-range transport, which might affect Europe or other parts of the world, and then anomalies on fires, which have impacts on trends. So this is, as I said, the anomaly tool developed within IRISCC, and we can see basically a time series at the top here of ozone in the lower troposphere, signified by the LT. And yeah, so we can see the anomalies then are colored blue for less than the climatology and red for higher than the climatology. And this is over 30 years. So what you can see, particularly in the middle panel, is that in 2003, we can see this big red anomaly, which is due to the 2003 heat wave. And then later on towards the end of the time series, most of these anomalies have become positive. So there's been a increase generally in ozone in the lower troposphere associated with heat waves. That's also illustrated here in this ozone mixing ratio against altitude plot, where we can see, it's a bit small on my screen, the 2003 median, which is in pink, which is still the most extreme, the 2003 heat wave over Frankfurt. But the June, July, August of 2022 is approaching that, and we can see this effect all the way up through the troposphere up to about 4,000 meters, and after that, this sort of influence starts to decay. So another example is anomalies during severe weather events. So this particular weather event is the floods in Valencia in 2024. So I'm sure you remember this. It led to about 237 deaths and 3.5 billion euros worth of damage, according to Wikipedia. So yeah, often we get anomalies, obviously, from severe weather events. The Mediterranean region in particular is susceptible to these heavy precipitation events because the warm sea is a source of heat and moisture. The complex topography around the Mediterranean basin can lead to orographic uplift and blocking, and there's a high population density that can be affected. So in the upper troposphere, we often get these upper level dynamical perturbations, such as a trough or a thalweg in the case of a Sevenol, which affect the areas of southern France. But in this case, it was a cold drop or a cutoff low, goutte froide in French, as this Météo France diagram indicates, and often called a dana in Spanish. So I'll leave Benyat to pronounce that for me. So yeah, so this is basically the geopotential height and wind vectors in ERA 5 showing this cutoff low. And we can see here in this diagram that the IAGOS aircraft is about to enter this area of cutoff low. This is an aircraft coming from, I think, Buenos Aires into Madrid. So what was interesting about this was that with our IRISCC anomaly tool, looking at ozone in the upper troposphere, UT, we can see these anomalies, and some anomalies of ozone start to stand out in this time series at Madrid Airport. And this is the Valencia case, and on the 29th of October. But what was interesting was that we were kind of focused on the 29th of October, and then looking at the IRISCC tool, we spotted another anomaly which turned out to be related to the Malaga event in on the 13th of November. So basically, the tool allowed us to spot another event that we kind of hadn't really taken into account. So the second part really of these case studies relates to wildfires. And we have developed through the Atmo Access project the this back trajectory tracking and provenance tool. So we can see different regions here in different colors, and this uses FlexPart, which is a Lagrangian model with ECMWF analysis and various emissions databases, anthropogenic and biomass burning databases. So this means that we can run this back trajectory model and associate the provenance with one of these regions. As we can see it here in this vertical profile with different colors indicating from which region this anomaly in CO is coming from. In this case, boreal North America. So a number of cases now. So these are anomalies during wildfires from 2023. These were the Alberta fires. And this is an illustration of continental scale transport. So the anomalies in carbon monoxide have moved from Alberta, and they're now being picked up in flights landing in Washington and Philadelphia. And we can see this, using this anomaly tool developed in IRISC, we can see this big increase in carbon monoxide as a positive against the climatology. In a similar way, these are wildfires showing impact of long-range transport to Europe. So these fires now are over Frankfurt. Well, the fires are in North America, but the transport of the plume reaches as far as Frankfurt Airport. And we can see again, with the IRISC tool, this increase, this anomaly, positive anomaly with respect to the climatology. And using the AtmoAccess tracking tool, we can see that the color is pale blue, which associates this air mass with air coming from boreal North America. And the bottom two plots show the similar thing, but with the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service models. So another example is from wildfires in 2024. Again, a similar situation, but this is just showing sort of local effects rather than any transport effects. So we have two anomalies here that show up. Yeah, so this has an impact on trends. And we can see if we look at the time series tool that we can see the overall decreasing trend in the maximum amount of carbon monoxide in winter due to decreases in the emission reductions. So we can see that in the free troposphere, and then in the lower troposphere, an increase in the summer minimum, which is probably due to the impact of long-range transport from forest fires. So this is for Frankfurt Airport here. And then, yeah, we can see again the impact on trends, particularly in North America. So this is an agglomeration of different airports in North America. So from Boston, Cincinnati, and up to Montreal. And particularly in this case, these two big fires stand out in the anomaly time series from IRISC. The first one being the 2021 Lytton fire, which affected British Columbia, and then a 2023 Alberta fire, which was from Alberta, obviously. And then finally, I think this is the last example. So this is an example now of anomalies from fires, which have been the plumes being transported from Asia. So again, the color now has changed. Before it was pale blue, and now it's like this pale yellow color, which means that it's from boreal Asia instead. So using the IRISC tool and the AtmoAccess tool, we get the provenance and the degree of the anomaly that we can see in different parts of the world. So just a way of my final slide, which is about accessing IAGOS data. So from iagos.org website, we have the various tools here in this list of blue things here. And we have the IRISC anomaly service. And then if you're interested, also this air mass provenance tool, which kind of goes with it. And these are the two QR codes. So I suggest the best conclusion really is to have a play with these tools for yourself and have a look. And obviously, if there's any feedback or anything that you think is not good or needs changing, then you should let us know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Also, again, for this comprehensive introduction to IAGOS. For me, it was very interesting to see a very alternative type of research infrastructure on board the aircrafts. We've been in all the previous sessions talking about static structures and permanent sites, so this was refreshing. And also, it was very interesting to see this virtual service that IAGOS is creating along with IRISC. We were also sharing at some point in the chat the catalog of services. So I just encourage the participants, whoever is seeing the YouTube recording in the future, go to the website, check the catalog of services. get familiar with the different services from these 14 research infrastructures, and maybe you find something that is relevant for your research. So I think that we can, at this point, stop the recording and move with the questions. I want to thank again both the speakers and all the participants in today's session, and see you hopefully in next week's last session in relation to research infrastructures connected with IRISCC.